When I'm back, this is Nicole Ali, and I'm reporting this story. Just came out today from Atlanta Black Star. There was another story that I cannot find from Atlanta Black Star. It was about a study that came out that showed that the more intelligent you are, the more racist you are, and it was similar to a story done last year by the Atlantic magazine or publication that came out that said something similar, where they used the term stereotyping, where people who are more intelligent are more likely to stereotype. So if you can find that article from Atlanta Black Star about intelligence and racism, and where they were trying to correlate the two, could you please put that in a link, the link below in the description, the comment box below, or email me the link. Nicole Ali 864 at yahoo.com. That's Nicole Ali, NICOLE ALI 864 at yahoo.com. I would really appreciate that. But I'll put my email again in the description box if you didn't get it for some reason. So anyway, this article came out today, Atlanta Black Star. The title is Black Immigration Activists Leaders Say That Trump's Words Are Not Surprising. He has a decades-old racist toolbox to pull from. It's by Barrington Salmon, and it's gotten a lot of views, and I think there's some comments below as well. It's been circulating around. So this is a picture of a woman named Diso Perival. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's, I'm not sure. Is this a guy? I guess it's a guy. He holds a sign in front of the Border Patrol office. Protesters want the Haitians to be allowed to stay in the U.S., although according to immigration rules, they are deported if arriving in the country illegally. So this article and many others come after the statements that President Tangerine made, where he said that people from these countries, such as Haiti and I think even Africa, the continent of Africa, that these are shithole countries. Okay, and everyone's going around acting like little kids. I think Mr. Superboy 223 talked about that, how they're going around acting like 6-year-olds on television, saying the word shithole over and over, whatever. I could care less about what he says, about what white people say. I care about what they do. White people in power can say whatever the hell they want to say. If you ain't gonna do nothing, then like my grandma say, sit your ass down. So, well, she says sit your black ass down, but in this case, sit your white ass down if you ain't gonna do nothing. So, I guess they are doing something now, and people, I guess, forgot back in November that they said they were going to start deporting people in 2018. And here we are. I have friends that are Haitian, I have friends that are African, but y'all gonna have to hold your own nuts on this. You know, that's just how I feel about it. You turn your noses up, not everybody, but those that I am criticizing, they know who they are. Come over here, you turn your noses up at African Americans that are here. Gave you the opportunity to come over here. If it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be here. They wouldn't even care about you. So, yeah, y'all gonna have to hold your own nuts and deal with that. The same way African Americans have to deal with getting killed and having our images put a negative light, negative stereotypes on us. I guess y'all forgot y'all black. But y'all gonna learn today. It's cool. So the article starts off by saying, since 2012, Danae Joseph has been protected by the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program, which, since being initiated by the executive order from President Barack Obama in 2012, has shielded almost 800,000 undocumented young people brought to the U.S. by their parents from deportation. But despite his declarations of support for the Dreamers, President Tangerine announced on September 5th last year, 2017, that he was ending the program. And he said this during his campaign speeches, as you remember. Since then, Joseph said, the lives of people like her has been thrown into disarray. Quote, people are scared, said Joseph, communications director from UndocuBlack an organization of current and former undocumented people of African descent who are creating safe spaces while publicizing, advocating, and lobbying for this often overlooked group. Quote, there is mass hysteria to organize and mobilize for resources and aid. As a person of African descent who falls into the undocumented category, Joseph said the challenges are far greater than for other immigrants. Quote, I sit at the intersection of being a black, undocumented immigrant woman, she said. For people like me, if we're not criminalized, we're marginalized. We're in a constant state of survival while pushing for representation and being seated at the table when these decisions are being made. She sounds like an intersectionalist. Okay, lady, you black. That's it. Ain't no black undocumented immigrant. You black. Period. You ain't white, so therefore you black. That's it. U.S. Senator Bedwinch Kamala Harris, Democrat of California, whose state has the most dreamers in the country, criticized the administration for turning its back on these young people. Quote, they're terrified, absolutely terrified, she told MSNBC host Rachel Maddow during a January 12th interview. We're not terrified out here getting shot by cops? The fuck? Okay. I gotta calm down and do this, because I already feel like I'm gonna get pissed off at some of this bullshit. Some of this stuff on here. Quote, they come up to me and break out in tears, please. They're afraid of being separated from their families and being sent, I guess that means being sent back to a country they don't know. Well, what do you think the goddamn slave trade was about? We've been separated for over 400 years from our relatives. We could walk by, like Lisa Cabrera said once, we could walk by somebody another black person, and that could be our relative, and we would never know. Why? Because the white folks who the immigrants' asses that want to kiss brought us over here, forced us to come over here and work for free, so your ass can come over here later on, decades, centuries later, and work for pennies, and then shit on us. So please, y'all can take that shit somewhere else. Like I said in the beginning, hold your own nuts on that. Moving on. But Trump has reneged on every promise made, she asserted, and has left the approximately 800,000 DACA recipients unprotected, in legal jeopardy, and vulnerable to deportation. Since September 5th, 15,000 Dreamers have lost their status, and every day 122 more are left vulnerable. Once this happens, Joseph said, these young people are no longer able to work, drive, or take care of seemingly mundane day-to-day activities. Harris said politicians must stop playing with the Dreamers' lives, and she called on Trump and her congressional colleagues to create a, quote, clean Dream Act bill, which would offer young, undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship with no strings attached. A bill unencumbered by poison pills like building a wall, making changes to the visa diversity program, killing chain migration, or other poison pills Democrats oppose. Before Thursday, it was expected that Democratic and Republican negotiators, led by Senators Lindsey Graham, Jeff Flake, and Dick Durbin, would be able to hammer out an agreement before January 19, but some racist comments by Trump at a White House meeting on the afternoon of January 11th have cast doubt on whether that will happen. And that's when he called the countries, shitholes. Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, recounted the following morning that Trump, angered by the numbers of blacks being allowed to enter the United States, had rallied against the shithole nations in Africa and Haiti from which they're coming. Trump is said to have wondered aloud why more immigrants couldn't come from countries like Norway, a white country. No surprise. Quote, as Senator Graham made his presentation, the president interrupted him several times with questions, and in the course of his comments said things which were hate-filled, vile, and racist. I use those words advisedly. I understand how powerful they are, Durbin told the media. But I cannot believe in the history of the White House, in that Oval Office, any president has ever spoken the words I personally heard our president speak yesterday. Trump has endured withering widespread condemnation for his comments. But he has not apologized. Rather, he instead has stood his ground because these statements appeal to his base. Danielle Solomon, director of Progress 2050 at the Center for American Progress, issued the following statement in response to the controversy. As we reflect on the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man assassinated fighting for justice and equality for black people, President Trump once again expressed racist and hate-filled comments about non-white people, she said. Time and time again, whether it's his rhetoric or his policy choices, the president, Tangerine, has targeted people who are not white. From his degrading comments about former President Barack Obama's birth certificate, to calling all Mexicans rapists, to validating white supremacists marching in Charlottesville, Virginia, as good people, President Trump has shown nothing but disrespect and disregard for non-white people. Although the DACA program has the support of about 75% of Americans, since assuming office, Trump has been particularly aggressive in pursuing an immigration agenda that has now been completely confirmed to be race-based. He and other Republican and administration hardliners have blamed immigration for America's economic and social problems. And both as he campaigned and after becoming president, he has employed fear-mongering and scapegoating while appealing to his supporters' racist, nativist, and xenophobic tendencies. Okay, just say white supremacy. All these little words ain't helping none. The administration's concept of overhauling America's legal immigration system is all about reducing the numbers of those who will be allowed in. Republican new proposals would implement a merit-based immigration system in which individuals are selected based on their high level of education and relevant professional skills. At the same time, officials are making it clear that they are under no obligation to allow immigrants to enter or stay in the United States merely because their homes and families are already here. So far in its first year, the administration has reversed DACA, gone after Muslims with 3 attempts at a Muslim travel ban, rescinded the temporary protective status of more than 300,000 Haitians, Sudanese, Salvadorans, and Nicaraguans, and suspended the U.S. refugee program for 120 days, while sharply cutting the amount of refugees entering the country from 11 unnamed countries. The administration has also given agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement the green light to wage war on its perceived enemies. For the past several months, squads of officers from ICE have descended in force, spreading out into cities and suburbs, including Brooklyn and Queens, New York, Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, California, and Langley Park, Maryland. Armed with new powers, they've swept into the homes, living spaces, and workplaces of undocumented immigrants, snatched them off of the street corners from businesses and restaurants, stopped them at roadblocks and checkpoints, and unceremoniously taken men, women, and young people into custody. That sounds real familiar. Sounds like the rise of the Third Reich to me. Since it was first announced on June 15, 2012, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals policy has provided temporary relief from deportation as well as work authorization to approximately 800,000 undocumented young people across the country. As research has consistently shown, DACA has not only improved the lives of undocumented young people and their families, but has also positively affected the economy more generally, which benefits all Americans. DACA has been unreservedly good for the U.S. economy and for U.S. society more generally. Previous research has shown that DACA beneficiaries would contribute $460.3 billion to the U.S. gross domestic product over the next decade, economic growth that would be lost were DACA to be eliminated. Those opposed to Trump's immigration policies, his attempts to implement Muslim bans, overall attacks against, quote, the others, are producing resistance in the form of protests, rallies, sit-ins, and demonstrations. During the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, Haitians and other people of African descent held protests in Miami's Little Haiti. Washington labor activist Mark Bayard is the first. Okay, y'all, I'm sorry about that. My grandmother was calling me. I had to call her back. Where was I? Washington labor activist Mark Bayard is a first-generation American of Haitian descent who has worked with trade unions, collectives, and a range of black organizations in more than a dozen African nations. Trump has a racist toolbox that was built over decades. He seized all the tools in the arsenal, says Bayard, a fellow at the Institute for Policy Studies and director of the Black Worker Initiative. He has no fear in using the full array of weapons, and we don't have a counterbalance with Congress or the media. He has continued a drumbeat of attacking black people in the Middle East, Africa, and Puerto Rico. His words weren't hurtful, but were jarring to people of color. Non-white people, sorry. His behavior is pretty consistent. It's sad, and I think people are becoming desensitized. We have an election this year. If people weren't more utterly motivated, this should do it. There is need for ongoing protests, making our voices heard and voicing concerns to the media for posterity. Documenting what we believe is extremely important. We have to keep in touch, rally around folks from Latin America. No, the hell we don't. The Caribbean. No, the hell we don't. And the Middle East. No, the fuck we don't. Supporting and protecting each other because we're in a very fragile state. No, you're in a very fragile state. We good. Y'all do that. Y'all handle that. Like I said, hold your own goddamn nuts. Fellow Haitian American Karine Jean-Pierre echoed Bayard's concern that the problem isn't that Trump is a racist, but that he is implementing policies imbued with deeply nativist, anti-black, anti-immigrant, xenophobic sentiment. And when black people warned y'all about this, y'all didn't say nothing. Y'all said that black people were lazy. So, like I said, hold your own goddamn nuts. And then they go on to say that racism underlines this administration's thinking on immigration is thoroughly unsurprising. Donald Trump's legacy is not simply speckled with incidents of racism. It itself is racist, says Jean-Pierre, a former Obama aide, political campaign organizer, and activist in a January 12th Common Dreams article. Donald Trump entered the business world as a racist. He entered the 2016 election as a racist, and he entered the White House as a racist. It's also not surprising he said so in the context of immigration policy discussions, continued Jean-Pierre, senior advisor and national spokeswoman for MoveOn.org. Because just as Trump's racism is intrinsic to who he is as a person, it too is embedded in his policy choices. From his attempts to implement a somewhat limited version of the Muslim ban he promised, to his insistence on building a wall on the border with Mexico as part of any immigration reform. The only thing that differentiates Trump from many of his Republican allies is that he is willing to name the source of his motivations aloud and often in public. So this is the article I've read. Here are the comments below. Apparently there's only one comment. Yeah. So yeah, this is a white dude, I guess, or whatever. Not important. But yeah, y'all just saw my grandma calling, so I gotta go. It's snowing there, back home, and she probably just want to make sure I'm all right. I'll make sure she's all right because she's been dealing with stuff. But yeah, anyway, African Americans, Black American Africans in this country, Africans that were brought here, forced to come here and work for free as slaves, and forced to breed each other as slaves and treated like property and treated like we want shit. We, for the most part, we're not really, we're concerned. It's like, okay, we're gonna pray for y'all. Same thing y'all say to us when things happen to African Americans. We gonna do the same thing to y'all. We're not gonna treat nobody no better or no worse. We're gonna treat you exactly the same way. And in that, I would say, hold your own nuts. And I'm gonna keep saying that. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, share the article, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified when I post a new video. Thanks. Have a great day.